Hallo.
Hi, ich bin Claudia. Ich bin heute für dich Ansprechpartner
Ah
von
ja, sehr
WeWork.
gut, ja.
Nice to meet you.
Okay.
So I bring already few attendees.
Okay. Please have a seat.
Take something for
Have a
free.
drink. I'm still busy with technology, yeah? So,
Always the best part.
yeah.
Okay. Ja, sag gerne Bescheid. Julia geht ja noch mal, glaube ich, runter. Die holt ja, glaube ich, noch was. Aber ich bin hier.
Okay.
Was ist denn noch das Problem bei der Technik?
Ja, wir konnten den Beamer und meinen externen Bildschirm nicht gleichzeitig haben. Aber es ist okay.
Ihr seid auch nicht, du bist auch nicht über HDMI angeschlossen, sondern du hast nicht eingewählt über die Website, oder?
Richtig, ja. Kann ich auch über HDMI?
HDMI, ja. Dann kannst du.
Wo ist das Kabel? Wo ist das Kabel?
Da kann ich gerne eins organisieren, falls dabei ist.
Nee, du, ich bin jetzt drin.
Okay, dann lassen wir
Ja.
das so.
Und ja, ich hatte noch einen externen Bildschirm dabei, den ich über HDMI an meinen Computer anschließen wollte, damit ich mir besser sehen kann.
Und das ging dann nicht.
Das ging nicht, ja. Aber das ist
Okay.
schon.
Sollen wir die Musik noch ein bisschen anmachen, damit noch ein bisschen oder sonst auslassen?
Ja, ist okay. Keine Musik mehr, brauchen wir nicht mehr. Ah, alles klar. He's down receiving people. The reception. Yeah, vielen Dank. Hallo, Robert. Absolut. Ah. Away from him, it's quite a trip, though. I saw the question you were talking about. Yeah, I wrote them down. Hello. Hello. Yeah, we have 10 minutes to start at quarter past. So to give people the opportunity to be in time. Sorry for those who arrived a little bit early, but we were not ready with technology, so you have to wait a bit. So there's at least two of you that were here already last time. You and yes, exactly. Yeah. You too. Yeah.
I don't remember, it was about a month ago, there at that place.
In another place, not in WeWork, not
here.
Ah, all right. We met somewhere else. All right.
It was at that place where it
Bitter
was
house.
less floor, and we had the problem that we could not see anything because of the sunshine.
No, but that was in Sony Center, in WeWork, Sony Center in July.
I'm really bad in Denmark.
Well, I guess so.
Exactly.
It's pretty close to that place, and we couldn't see anything. But you see, we made some progress. Yeah. Today the screen is very clear and working perfectly. Hallo. Hallo. Holger. Ja, wir finden so ganz schwer. Ja, alles ist gut? Nee, um Viertel noch eigentlich. Ja. Ja? Ich würde gerne näher dran setzen, ja, die hinteren Plätze. We have over 80 RSVPs, but that means that maybe 30 or 40 people will really attend. And we have already, at this time, we have already 4 people in the live session. So, yeah. Yeah. Very important. Mm-hmm. I need to check if I record or not. Yeah, recording. All good. Wir haben uns
Das war diese Geschichte. Das habe ich schon, aber auch schon. Ja, das ist total nicht so, aber es ist ja nicht so, es ist ja nicht so, dass du mit einer Frau was erklären willst. Und ja, alle meine Arbeit ist auch. Jetzt schon auch wirklich. Das ist ja eine Geschichte. Wir sind von zwei oder nicht. Ja, gute. Das würde ich schon erklären.
Ja, das sieht man auch in deinen Daten, ne? Oder? Soll das eine Spirale sein mit Orange, Blau, Gelb, Grün?
Ja, so ein bisschen. Ja, das ist gut. Ich habe ganz,
ja, ich mache Lebensberatung. Oh, da geht es auch darum, den Laden nicht umzubringen, oder den Sprung zu halten. Und die sind ja alle am Straucheln. Zu meiner weil es zu weit weg ist. Ja. Man kann ja die Leute anschauen, aber ich glaube, das ist weil wenn einer, wenn einer auf einmal nicht leben lässt, du kommst mit deinem gelben Haar aus dem Global an. Ja, gut. Ich habe meine Tür gefunden. Das ist ja auch mal man müsste Geld
and afterwards, we have a little time. to show who works behind it. So, hello. All right. It comes up with a bunch of people in elevators. They have to wait and then go up together, I think. I do not understand exactly how it works. I don't know who's waiting for this next. Maybe there's nobody. But it's not time. We start is quarter past. Yeah, like 1 or 2 minutes. So, your first time also? Yes. Yeah. To April, I'm graphic designer. Sorry, graphic designer. Graphic design. Yeah. And I work remotely. You work? I work remotely. Remotely. General interest in the topic. Yeah. Not a specific interest. So a specific topic we're talking about. You would certainly hear something interesting. want to start.
So, welcome to this second meetup about futures of work and organization. Actually, I added an S to futures because I met someone who told me, yeah, there's not one future, there must be many futures. And I agree with that. But the graphic, I couldn't change it anymore, so it's later in the text. So I'm Rosho. Some of you know me already, and I will explain what we are going to do today. So the intro and why we have this meeting. I will present myself a little bit and my work, where I come from. I will talk about pilot projects. Can you hear me well? Even over there, because there's a lot of space in front. If you don't hear me well, so you can come closer. I will talk about the challenges and the issues. Yeah, we met and how we solved them, but a pretty high level overview, obviously. Then I will talk. This was a requirement from my question that was asked on last meetup. How can we align individual and collective purpose? I want to explain how to align them. And I will present some major tools I'm using in my own toolbox as a consultant and coach, which I call the Augmented Leadership Toolbox, which I will present. Then we can have some question answer and question session, and then open bar. Thanks to WeWork. Okay, so I am working as a coach after having worked as a program manager in bigger companies or corporations in all over Europe. I will explain a few later. I am a project manager. I did business development. I have worked as a sales manager also. I started the IT business in '94, where I created one of the very first web agencies in Europe. There was a time where the internet couldn't even be accessed directly. We went through gateways, AOL and CompuServe gateways. It was a very interesting story. So I'm an early believer in communication and digital. And I used to be a monk in a Zen monastery for 6 years. Actually, was the cook. I'm an integral life coach for those who know what integral means. And I fly little airplanes when I have time, not so much time, but it's very useful to be a pilot because you know what a checklist is. And I'm a father myself of 7.5 sons. 0.5 is sitting here. And this is my wife Yuko, which I present to you. Okay. Yeah, and I'm a craftsman initially. I used to build organs. I will explain that. I used to be a street singer and a farmer. I put some pictures together, but not coming. Oh. Sorry, technical problem. Sorry, I need to reconnect. That is very bothersome. Ah, there we go. A few pictures out of my personal life. I used to build organs. I used to be a Zen, actually master, and hit the people who fell asleep when they fall asleep during the meditation. I used to be a street singer when I was young, and I used to be a very bad farmer. Ask the horse. So today I want to talk about some pilot projects, which I already talked about last time a little bit, but this time more in depth. I want to talk about the IKEA project, where I was responsible for the new website, global website, and where I introduced distributed competence, agile, and yeah, some other features. I worked in a company with a remote ops team, which I transitioned to self-organization, and operations is not really something that there's no big examples for it. I have been consulting for Volt Europa political party, and currently actually I'm working for a company called Viessmann. They do heating systems, and they introduced a lot of changes, and I will explain more in detail. What is common to most of my projects is that I use subversive methods to infiltrate organizations with agile and self-organization without a mandate. And this is something I'm happy to explain to you because you can do it. It is not necessary to have a mandate to introduce good practice into organizations where you work. I had to do it very often from bottom up. Now I'm doing currently the very first project top down, where actually the owner of the company decided to become agile, in just one day for the whole company, 12,000 people, which is very courageous. But all my previous projects from 2006, I was called as a project manager or program manager into failed projects, stranded projects, because it's when they call the freelancers, when they can't do it by themselves anymore. And I had to find the ways over the years how to bring stranded projects back on track. And what I used all the time for all of these projects is just make them agile, make them self-organized, bring them bring the joy back into the life, and get the frustration out of them. And that is what I show here with these little slides. I plant a few flowers in a completely flat lawn where people were unhappy and very chaotic, and I change the hierarchies into competence centers, which you see on the right, and then people just flower and become creative again. So IKEA Global Web Project was a very frustrating project from a certain point of view because the technology didn't work, the architecture was bad, and a lot of people, actually still not out, and a lot of people were working on a project which was frustrating from a technical point of view, from a timeline point of view, was just impossible. And it was a very big project, a very big team, about 52 people in a core team doing many different jobs. And they had no idea what they were doing, and they had actually no idea what the other people were doing. It was very uncomfortable for them to feel that things were done. This is something I heard all the time. So they had no org chart. So the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we tried to make an org chart. It was just impossible because nobody knew how the organization worked. So I said, okay, let's do some competence center bubbles, and I show you one slide later. I introduced a skill matrix. I made an ontology map of the whole organization. I made a good dashboard. I brought in stand-up meetings, ceremonies and artifacts of the agile world, and continuous improvement, Kaizen technology out of Lean, so that everybody could contribute to make things better. And this worked very well. So the people had benefits where purpose was regained. People suddenly had the impression that they worked for something useful. Values of the company could be applied again. People were re-engaged. People were massively leaving the project, running away from it. And after 2-3 months, people started coming in from all over the world. They wanted to work with us. New people were coming, new talents. So we had also a few problems because this was an isolated bubble in a very, very big corporation. And the management was completely disconnected from the higher management. They didn't know what we were doing. And as I said, this was a submarine way of doing things. There was no mandate, so there was no management support. It was also a very temporary effect. So what is temporary here? Temporary is, so when I went away, obviously, I don't think they continued much longer doing like this because I was driving it. But one thing you need to understand that when people actually work once in their life in self-organization, in an agile world, when they have this confidence and they have a voice suddenly and they can participate, they will not go back to the old world. That is for sure. So you change the people in depth in giving them self-organization and agile spirit. So for example, this is something I did in the very beginning. This is real data, real names. We had a lot of people and nobody knew actually who could do what. So I just put an Excel file on the SharePoint, not very digital thing, but I made this table, and everybody could write down where the major skills and competences were. And then it was very easy to filter out people, and we could make role-based deployment of teams rather than people-based deployment, planning of teams. That is a huge difference. And also, this gives you a very good view on what you need to hire in next. Because when you click here on and you filter out on whatever skills and you see that you have one, that means that person gets a bad flu, your project stops, all right? And this happens very often in companies that skills are concentrated in people and they are not even aware of it, how much they depend on one person. One very important thing I introduced, and this is again real names and real data here. I made a very simple competence bubble drawing around the core team. So core team this looks a little bit like holacracy, but it's not really holacracy. It is just the competence part of it, and the roles and the competence-based work. That is what you can see here. We were not able to make an org chart, the classic org chart, top-down hierarchical org chart, but in reality, we knew what people were working on, and we could bring them together in these competence circles, and suddenly the roles became clear for everybody, and they started working again. And I'm using this everywhere I go. I make these competence circles because it clarifies the roles and responsibilities for each and everyone. Yeah, and I like ontology maps. What is an ontology? Ontology means you map the whole system. You draw your understanding of the system. This is a model I developed with my actual boss from IKEA. You have on the first level, you have the entities. When you go to work in big corporations, there are plenty of entities, and they work side by side in silos, and they do a lot of parallel work, and they don't even know what they're doing. So we introduced a second layer, which is a capability model. So what are these people actually doing, and how is this related? And the third layer above, this ontology map, 3D ontology map, is what are the initiatives they are running. So we get a clear picture on who is doing what and how in drawing it up. But it's a lot of work, so it's only worth it for very complex programs and very complex corporations. Yeah, and I always like nice dashboards. So again, here ontology map and a timeline up there, which is very important because you can see the data on the timeline, and you can see some KPI here. The first KPI on the left is called organizational entropy, which is my preferred meta KPI to measure, the organizational debts. You know about technical debts. Here we talk about organizational debt, or the entropy, which is the wasted energy, basically, which is the too much complexity, which is all the work that is done for nothing. It will not come back. Obviously, the normal KPIs like budget, scope, progress, resources, and so on. But this is an executive dashboard I always make only for myself, so I can at least know where we stand and on a timeline, so I can make projections. So I introduced Agile, I introduced Kaizen, and I explained already that, the benefits and problems I already talked about it before. But it was IKEA. IKEA is a very big company, but they have clearly a problem in structuring certain bigger projects, and this helped them. Actually, I was asked to bring in this methodology within a larger, within IKEA within other divisions. But well, they didn't make me an offer that was interesting for me as a freelancer. They wanted me to join IKEA and do this from inside, but moving to Sweden and earning a local krona wasn't my thing. Another project I wanted to talk about is another stranded project where I was called as a business process consultant. And funny enough, people who were responsible for this team, they thought it was processes that were not right. And in reality, it wasn't that at all. And the analysis they made was completely wrong. Actually, the challenge was they had no manager. The team maturity was very low. And again, the organization and the roles were completely unclear. And they had very good processes, but this was like 600 pages or something. And none of them had ever read them. They were done by external consultants without participation of the people who actually. So these processes didn't live at all. They were just dead paper taking dust. So working on the processes wouldn't have helped. So what I did, again, distributed competence. It wasn't such a big team. I can show you. It's again real names here. I can show you around the core team, people were organized in competencies and worked together, even though they had no manager at all. So they were self-organized by default because they didn't even have a manager, because HR wasn't able to hire one, actually. So I introduced skill matrix, as I showed you before. I introduced continuous improvements, and I introduced something which is called KCS, which is knowledge-centered service management, which is a methodology in my toolbox, which I use to make big documentation alive little by little. So documentation is there, but it's not working because it's not updated, it's too much, or it's not enough, or the quality is either too granularity is either too much or not enough, and it's not adapted to the actual work. So KCS is doing what? KCS is something very simple. Every time you do something, for example, this was an operational ticket. They solved operational ticket. They solve tickets. They have outages or what. Every time they have a problem, every time they open a ticket or they solve a ticket, they log exactly which documentation they are using to solve it and the state of it and how useful it was or how unuseful it was and what should be done to improve it. And so little by little, in working and continuously working on the documentation, you get a better picture of it instead of like reading it through or giving it out again to some external consultant. This is the power of KCS. I didn't really know at the beginning how to tackle this, but a colleague of mine, consultant, organizational consultant, gave me that tip, and it worked. Yeah, benefits. People were re-engaged and working. New talents were arriving again, while people were massively quickly leaving the team, obviously. And yeah, it's always nice to see that people have fun again and are motivated when they work. Again, the local management was completely disconnected because they couldn't even understand what we were doing here. They just saw we were working differently, but they were not even curious about how this was done. And so the team was ultimately dissolved because local management thought they would never make it, even though they could have. But that's another story. Yeah, just a little word on Volt Europa, which is a political party, very new, very young. I'm working in the strategy team of this party. I'm also working in the governance task force of this party. It's a European party, so it's simultaneously in 28 countries and 27 maybe soon. And it is at Volt, we are designing the future of Europe, but from a European point of view. So it's not like usually the political landscape is polarized left, right, or whatever, and coming out of one country and then making eventually partnerships with other parties in other countries. No, this party was created all over Europe at the same time, and the focus is Europe. And this is a very different way of seeing Europe, and it's extremely interesting. By the way, the governance of Volt is the first governance now. All the voting is based on blockchain and has been presented recently, a few weeks ago. So it's very good ideas. And I was attending several workshops and I gave my ideas to them. We talked about self-organization, we talked about holacracy, or I mean self-organization, not holacracy, self-organization, and platforms to support self-organization, like Holaspirit, for example. Because they're using Facebook, what's it called, Workspace or something. I mean, inappropriate tools, American tools for a European party and so on. So they're not happy about it. I also inspired them some very classic project management best practices they didn't have. Some very simple things. And when we worked on the governance model, it was very helpful. Out of the project management world, we established a RACI matrix for each role. I don't know if everybody knows what a RACI matrix is. Responsibility, accountability, what is the C? I forgot. Huh? Yeah, consulted and informed. So it is, yeah, there's plenty of variations of it. But a RACI matrix actually tells you what your role is and where your responsibility and what your domain is. Okay, this is your domain, and it is limited to this, and that helps people a lot to understand what they should do and where they stop to do things, not to get mixed up with other things. I introduced also to them the agile project management methodology. I introduced the Kaizen coordination. So Kaizen over 28 countries, which is quite a nice thing. I introduced to them the concept of ombudsperson, which is, I don't know, you may know it from the insurance world. This is not a trial. This is not a court. This is someone, the ombudsman or ombudsperson is someone who solves the conflicts before it gets bad, right? So it's legal function. Very interesting. Yeah, and I'm developing with them the vision and the roadmap of a European digital governance platform for the citizens and obviously also for the party. So this is very ambitious, and it will take a long time, but there is now at least one political party in Europe who is actually actively working for Europe and designing the Europe of tomorrow. There's very young people and a few older ones like you. Yeah, I come to the last project I want to present today, before we go to other topics, is my current assignment with a company called Wiesmann. Some of you may know Wiesmann because it is, they make gas burners and oil burners and heating and heat pumps and air conditioning devices and so on. So it's the classical German manufacturing, fifth generation of family business, 12,000 people. In the middle of nowhere, it takes an hour and a half to drive from the first railway station to get to their place. Okay, it's in the middle of the forest, and thousands of people are working there. It's just incredible. You need to hire or you need to rent a car to get there. So you cannot even imagine. So what are their challenges? I work there as an agile transformation coach within the transition team, who introduces a lot of changes into a huge amount of teams. So this is a traditional German industry facing globalization, Asian competition coming in. They never had it. They are going digital, and they're going digital since years, but digital has become a key development for them. People want to manage their heating, their air conditioning, their stuff with a smartphone. So they are offering integrated platforms to do so. IoT, all that stuff is coming for them. Actually, they tackle it very well. They have climate change. The climate change is very real. The temperatures go up, and machines like air conditioning needs to be redesigned. We are actually to the point where the temperatures outside go up by several degrees, and a machine who had to support 45 degrees now before has to support now 65 degrees. So this is changing the complete conception of the air conditioning. It's a incredible thing. Then they have a generation shift like any other company in the world. Millennials are coming. So millennials don't want to work like their parents did or their grandparents did. And yeah, they are in such a remote place that if they want to attract the talents, they really need to be better than others. Because people love to work in cities, not on the countryside. And so to attract the good people, they know that they need to have a good organization internally. So all that is bringing completely new levels of complexity to their work. They have to develop products much faster. They have to be in the market with many more variations, variables of in products than before. Many technical things. And then the organization, what do? They do a very courageous, big bang, top-down corporate transformation. They introduced lean into their manufacturing 2 years ago. Now they're introducing requirements engineering, which is, people in the software industry know that very well, is listen to the customer, user stories. I mean, you imagine the guy who makes a gas heater, talk to him about the user story, all right? But now it's necessary because a gas heater before, you switched it on, you change the temperature, that's it. The user story is very short. Now you have digital, you have platforms, you have a multitude of variables, and so there are now, like, for one single device they're developing, it's 1,500 user stories. It's huge. And this needs to be translated into technical requirements. And obviously this is a challenge because they never worked like that before. They decided on 12th of August to become agile in the whole company. All right? 12th of August, from the 12th of August, after 2 weeks of summer holidays, they are working agile now. And with agile, obviously, like a Trojan horse, comes the self-organization, because you cannot make agile without self-organization. Otherwise, it's not agile. It's, yeah. What is the expression I heard the other day? Zombie scrum? Yeah. So they introduced, on the same day, they introduced a cross-functional matrix organization. While there were like workshops and teams who knew each other since decades, probably from father to son, in this remote area of Germany, and now they're working matrix, role-based. So this is a really big shift for them, and yeah, and they decided to introduce all that at the same time, and to support it with digital tools. So you can see the program is quite large, and it is a very, very interesting project. So the quantity of changes is just overwhelming for anybody working in this company. But it's actually, I was a bit shocked when I heard it first, but it's actually very interesting that when you introduce a lot of changes at the same time, in this work, it's actually smoother than if you introduce small changes over a long period of time. Because people, what do they do when the change comes? They complain. Before it was better. And when you put so many changes on the table at the same time, they don't even know what to complain about it anymore. This is a really interesting to see. They get either completely confused and they don't know what to do anymore, or they say, okay, what is actually my job? And this is what 99% of these people are doing. What is actually my job? And what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to build this specifically heat pump, and they just do it. And what I do as an agile coach there, obviously I introduce the artifacts and the meeting structure and all this normal agile stuff, okay? But what I did is really to help them to navigate around all these obstacles and to continue to work on what they are supposed to work, because they are competent. They are competent teams now in the matrix organization. This is exactly what I showed you before, all these bubbles, okay? This is a matrix organization, and it works very well. It's disconnected from the hierarchy, and competent people work together and do something. So finally, 12th of August, today is 11th of, today is 9/11. Actually, this is not even a month, and it already works. That is really nice to see. So what did I do in order to get this? I'm coaching actually the product team. So it's the managers and people who really develop the products. It's like 20, 30 people who are like at the core of the system. They don't make the pieces of metal, they design them, okay? So what did I do? I introduced the agile basics, roles, and best practice. Actually, when you do the software development, agile is very well designed for. When you do hardware development, obviously the agile approach must be different. You cannot do software or hardware the same agile way, okay? It's still agile, but you have other, in the software, you have a user story. As a user, I click here when I want to do something. All right, so it's simple user story, and the result is you can't do that in a hardware. In a hardware world, you have a machine, for example, has a noise level. They want to reduce the noise level underneath a certain amount, and the user story is the machine has to be not more noisy than certain level, okay? So the user story is very short. But how do you translate that into actually technical requirements that are behind? That is the trick. And there was a disconnect because they couldn't do it. They couldn't find the way. But we found it. So I designed for them completely adapted backlog structure. So the classic product backlog, I made them 4 levels to stick with their development methodology, which they are using. Product development methodology, which is also in 4 levels. So we made the backlogs fitting to the technical requirements, and we drew like a dotted line somewhere where people work together and coordinated, and under the dotted line, people work in complete self-organization. They can use the tools they want. They use papers on the wall or Excel sheets or Asana or whatever, but above a certain line, they need to go in the structured backlogs, in the structured backlog with a given format. And there's an interface between those, and there's certain people actually responsible for that interface. So yeah, it's maybe a little bit technical for some of you, but it's quite a challenge in a hardware development world to introduce agile in an efficient way. So I also drew them an ontology map in the 5 dimensions that I like. So the 3 ordinary dimensions that everybody knows. 4th is obviously the time. And the 5th dimension I introduce is how do things relate? How are things connected? This is the 5th dimension I introduced to them. And you saw this ontology map earlier with all these levels and lines. When you draw that for them, suddenly they understand how things are connected, and it works because it's visual. Ontology maps is a very, very strong tool.
Question?
Yeah.
When you introduced the Big Bang, now it's a full month, do you have some kind of KPI for measuring your productivity on this month? Week by week, is it going down? Is it going up maybe? Or is it similar to before?
So we had no statistics before. So we cannot really say on database what is happening. We have, nevertheless, we have the subjective impression of the people. So obviously, introducing a lot of change is introducing a lot of entropy, a lot of wasted energy. But every change is introducing entropy. Okay, you cannot go from A to B without spending or wasting energy. It's not possible. So my personal impression is, and talking to the people, that actually the wasted energy is not much more than before, and they saw immediately the benefit of the 2-week sprint and the sprint reviews and retrospection and planning sessions. All the basic agile stuff was immediately useful to them from sprint 0. They made an effort to dive into it, and I saw within 4 weeks, I saw the backlogs, which they didn't have before. Because before that, they were one big team, and they were having like 90% of implicit knowledge. Now they have maybe still 70% of implicit knowledge, but they start putting explicit knowledge into formalized meetings and documents, artifacts. And that is a real progress. And I can see it for the future. I like what I see. Now, asking you questions about KPI. Yes, we have introduced from day one KPIs. So based on sprint reviews for a start, but we didn't have the figures before because it wasn't there. But obviously we are collecting. Okay, so we are collecting sprint targets, how much of it was done, why is it not done, and after the first sprint, we introduced something which we called in German Querschläger log. So meaning in English, yeah, impediment log. Why could I not work on what I was supposed to do during my sprint? And log the time and the reason. So it's not like I log my time in the project, what I'm doing. We did it the other way around because it was a negative way, like entropy is a negative value, negative KPI. It was this negative value which was much closer to them because they felt that every time someone was asking them something else than some manager came with some reporting requirement, every time they felt they couldn't do their job, they are logging it now. So we will have statistics over the next months, and then we will see what we do with that. Yeah.
I have a question. If I see that huge amount of the changes that they wanted to do, I can already imagine that panic on the dance floor between the colleagues who are working there. Because normally every change is just people they are scary about it, and when I see that list, it's understandable.
Yeah.
So my question is, how did you get it, this panic to bring it out, and if you really get it about in 1 month to get this result. So it has to be a clear structure from the management from this one, because you really cannot imagine how can you get it in such a short time with such a huge amount of people. Is it from normally it comes from management? Is it really such a good management who really prepared all their wishes and such a good team who overwhelmed their risks and their panics? Or it's just the magic of your job?
Well, That's the power of self-management. That's the power of self-organization. When a team who knows what to do, these are engineers, they know what to do. They know they have made many other machines before. So you completely change the whole management structure. One thing I can tell you, the structure did not come top down. Top down came, this is now you're going to work agile and self-organized. That was the power. That's the power of self-organization. So within a completely chaotic organization, or unclear, and momentarily unclear organization, the self-organized teams, they can live with it immediately. They come to a level of abstract. They don't need. They know that they will not be helped by anyone, and they just work. And the only thing you can do for them is empower them to work, and also go to the managers and tell them, please do not interfere now, because now you wanted them self-organized, so please let them work, right? That's more challenging. Some managers have bad habits. So top-down changes to self-management, no, can't work. Self-management works always because you throw people in a completely chaotic, it's like they stand up. They stand up and start to work. They want their stuff done. All their pride is in the result of what they're doing. And the organizational structure for them is an impediment. So if you unleash them, you tell them, now it's you organize yourself, you align within your teams, you align within the roles, and here you use these basic tools like a backlog and a sprint rhythm. It works. That's the power of it. No management needed. And earlier I talked about that case where the management wasn't even there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I told them, guys, you don't need a management. Just go to work. Organize yourself around the competencies you have. You guys are good in testing. Work together. But one of you will be the leader of the testing team. And he will talk to the others. Because in a bad organization, everybody talks to everybody. That is bad. That is a lot of entropy. So if you make a competence circle, and one of them is the most competent, becomes the leader of this competence circle, he will talk to the others. The others will just work. That's the power of it. And I have seen it. It's incredible when you hear it, but it is like that. Good. Let's have a 5 minutes of break, and then we go to the second part. That's good. Weiß ich nicht, wie das geht. Ich würde jetzt das heißt, es ist. Ja, hast du es gesehen? Wir zeigen uns ja auch. Das heißt, das ist der Vorhin. Ich weiß es nicht. Ich habe auf Stumm geschaltet. Und das geht ja nicht. Das geht ja gar nicht in den Raum. Mm. Yes. I would say this requires a little bit of an experience. So it's maybe difficult to teach, and certainly not in a few sentences, because you need to feel what's going on, what's going on, and you need to be a coach. You need to coach. You need to bring people to do what they are supposed to do. How do you do that? That's a lot of intuition. That is psychology. That is knowledge of people. And I will talk in the second part. I will talk about tools I use in order to bring people to work together. Mhm. Some tools, because I have many, but I will see the next 2 points is tools. So this is what I call my toolbox. Okay, I have a situation. I need a screwdriver, or I need a hammer, or I need a saw. You know, and this toolbox I will present it. Yeah? So you can't say there's one tool. There's no magic. You need different tools, and you need to use them the right way in the right moment. That requires experience and also intuition, requires empathy. And you need to read the books. Work in companies where with bad organization, so you can learn about bad organization, all the things that you can learn. I learned most of what I learned is in bad organization, bad teachers. So I you learn from the negative. Yeah. He's a leader, not a manager. What is the difference between a manager and a leader? Manager, competence, but he's the most competent. Have you ever worked? What is competence? That is a very good question. Competence, I will explain it. What is competence? I will take this question for later. And competence is not easy to define, but I will do it later. Okay? Yeah, competence is, when I talk about competence circles and competence leaders, and the most competent, who is that? But I will give examples. Yeah? All right. So what is it you're doing? Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. In an agile world, you don't work behind the laptop. In an agile world, when you do product design, you work with the customer. I know it's not correct. It's not good. I know. But I give you one keyword you should research if you're in product design. Here we have after design sprints. Design sprint. You have heard about it? Do it. Right. Yeah. No, but design sprints, not the same. Design sprints. Design sprints, it's not nothing to do with design or sprints. It's design sprints. It's a very specific methodology which you should look into. You Google it, design sprint. That is brilliant. Yeah. All right. If, I will explain a few things, also a few questions. And at the end, we still have open questions, and you can ask again. All right? If something has not been explained. Yeah, hi again.
Yeah, I was to get the kids into bed.
Yes, so nice of you to.
No, I was curious.
Ja, das ist echt so gute Idee, das mal kurze Atempause und machen zu jedem. Ich werde das im zweiten Teil so machen. Fantastisch. Wir haben ein Team. So, most of us are back. All right, so let's start again. I was told I should stop more often and leave you the time to ask questions and not to talk for 1 hour before you can ask questions. I will do this in the second part. So what I will explain, I will not explain the nature of purpose, but I will explain how we can find it and how we can align it within an organization. It comes actually simply out of the way we find it. I will talk about the Augmented Leadership Toolbox, which I use for all these different cases that I encounter in my job as a coach. And I will talk about them by order of importance. Then we can still have open questions and bar and networking. So I was asked, how can you align your own purpose with the purpose of an organization you're working in? All right. So very simple. What is your purpose? Find it already. So to find my own purpose, for example, I use the Ikigai methodology, which is very simple, which I will explain. It's all over the internet, everybody knows it, but still, it is very powerful. And to find the alignment with the organizational purpose, I use again another tool I designed myself in my augmented leadership toolbox. So let's get to it. The augmented leadership toolbox starts with integral spiral dynamics. It goes to Ikigai, it goes to the leadership principles, my own, and it goes through the comprehension of what is entropy, thermodynamics and entropy. If you don't understand it, you cannot work correctly. It's the creative principle of the universe. I will get to it. So that's the spiral of spiral dynamics. I will close that ugly window here, and I say I got it. Many of you know it. If you don't know it, buy the book, Spiral Dynamics Integral. It is the base of everything. If you don't understand the spiral, you cannot work efficiently. You can't talk, you can't find a purpose, you can't talk to the people correctly, you will run after illusions. You will not get to the point if you don't understand the spiral. So what is the spiral? I will take like 3 minutes to explain it. But otherwise, go and Google it, buy the book, and read it. It's just important if you don't know about it. The spiral is a hierarchical scale of the it comes out of the evolutionary biology. It is a hierarchical scale of human sense of human worldview, of horizon. Actually, what makes us different, we people, that all of us, we have, or many of us, we have different worldviews. Some of us are in the lower levels, and some of us get into the higher levels, and some of us go into the yellow or the so-called teal level, and have a much wider worldview. So that is something you need to understand that this exists. And you also need to understand that people are in some level of here, and they will see the world through this level. So if someone is in for example, level 5 in an orange level, he will see only his personal success. He will not care about empathy. He will not care about the whole system. He will just care about himself. Okay? Because that's his nature. It's achievement. It's competitivity. It's success. The Wall Street trader is with his Hugo Boss and his nice sport car is in that level. He will not understand anything about. You will talk to him about things working together, like ecology or human relations. He gives a shit about it because he will just go about his personal success. And it's right. Everybody is right where he stands. That's the principle of the spiral. There's no good or bad. It's just that people are different. And every time you talk to someone, or every time you make a plan with people, you need to understand that people are at different levels. And you need to talk to them at their level, because this is the only thing they can understand. That is something you need to learn about. So let's say the people who are here, because the topic is clearly not a red domination of power or impulse level, then that one you go to the American president, for example. Okay, it's a very good example for a red level. If you come out of the blue is like the uniform. You live after the book. You will know many people who live after. Oh. Sorry. I try to keep it alive, but this is a really pain when I don't say it. One. Let's hope it's coming back. Yeah. So the blue level is the people who work after the book. You know many of them. Tell people, they will say to you, it's a rule, I follow it. I don't care if it's right or wrong, it's a rule. This is the blue level. And but people like this are very good in being policemen, for example, or judges, or soldiers. They live after the rule. You will see that people who believe in books are in that level. Religious people are in that level, and they live after a book. Okay, so it's not important if it's what is important for them is to live after the rules. So these people, you need to give them rules, and it is very important for them, and they are very useful in an organization because, for example, make someone a quality guy in that level is perfect. All right, he will just do the right thing to get the quality done. All right, so all these levels are useful. If you have a salesperson, put him, take people out of the orange level because they want to run and make money. They don't need too much to do a teamwork with their salespeople. Salespeople also can be of the red level. They can be very aggressive, and it's not bad because we want that from salespeople. All right. Now we come to the green level. The green level is, yeah, I call it the hippie level. It's people like my generation who used to grow up with long hair and flowers inside. We make love, not war, and we believe in everything. My generation believes that everybody should be equal. It's wrong. Nobody will ever be equal, okay? But it's a belief. And the green level is very judgmental about the other levels. They hate the orange, they hate the blue, obviously the red, and so on and so on. But they cannot understand the upper level. So that is something you need to understand. That if you are at that level, you can see the levels below you, but you can see them, but you may not like them. It is only when you get up to the yellow or to the teal level that you understand how this spiral works, and you can use it. So use the spiral, because if you don't understand the spiral, you cannot talk about self-organization. I mean, everybody can be in a self-organized team, whatever level the person is, but you cannot build one. You need at least like a few people who can understand the whole system to build something or to coach people. All right, that is the spiral. Who has a question about the spiral? Because otherwise I will talk again.
I have an understanding question,
Yeah.
if I understood it all correct. I think that I'm a green person, as you described. And I work in with the people who are people of rules. They do everything that was safe from the summer. The management is domination, power, and determined competitor. So it's always on success.
It's the orange level.
Between orange and red.
Yes, exactly.
And these people from orange and red, they want that I bring this company to the blue one, to the global vision.
Oh, that is astonishing that they want that, because generally they can't see it. Now, I know that orange people love agile. That is something I wanted to talk about later. We discussed it with Holger earlier. Agile is the Trojan horse. Okay? What is a Trojan horse? You all know what a Trojan horse is, I hope, yeah? So, bring agile to the people. You will bring them self-organization, and you will bring a teal level of organization into an organization which is composed by all these levels. And agile is the entry door, because the orange people, level number 5, they believe that agile will bring them more profit, more development, faster. With less people, spend less money for more results. This is what they want. And this is where you have to get them. This is how you get the money for you. This is how I do my job. I tell them agile, okay? They love agile. And with agile comes the whole toolbox.
But then normally they don't even understand what this means.
But they don't need to.
In my case, I think they should, because they want that the people, they make it self for themselves, but they are not ready to not to be anymore. There's so much authoritarian.
Yes. So we will always have hybrid organizations. We will not have pure agile organizations. Only very small organizations can have a completely agile spirit, all right? Any bigger organization will always be composed by all these people, because it's impossible to find an organization nowadays. It's very rare. I mean, there may be some exceptions, but generally organizations are on this red, orange level because they need financial success. This is what makes the success of organizations nowadays. And I missed to say earlier, you cannot move people from one level to the next. People can develop within their level, and they develop very well. You can, for example, you can do when you are even in the blue level or what. You can start to meditate. You can start reading books. You will see angels. You will have a lot of mystical experiences. It's great. You can develop, but you will not get up. Someone blue can at least become orange in one lifespan. But people do not jump more than one level. But you can use the greed of the orange people to make the organizations team. You can do that. I'm doing it. This is what I show you here.
The last question you said there is a lot of books about spiral dynamics. Maybe you can advise some authors of them, or
authors? There's only one. I mean, there's one book about spiral dynamics.
Okay.
It's called Spiral Dynamics Integral, and the author is Don Beck and Christopher Cowan. This is one book. I mean, there's probably 100 books, interpretations of this one, but this is the principal book. And the one who has taken the spiral dynamics to a completely other level is called Ken Wilber. And he's the author of the integral theory. Integral theory, that is something you should Google and should read if you have the capability of, because it's kind of difficult to read. All right? Start with the spiral. The spiral will talk to you. You will recognize yourself. You will recognize the people around you. You will recognize your colleagues, your bosses, your neighbors. You will see. You will develop some, how can I say, some, in 30 seconds, you know where people are. Yeah? And then you talk to them. You talk to them the things they can hear. Don't talk to someone who is in a blue level, who lives after a book. Tell them about human relations or synergy or a global vision. They will not be able to understand it. It's like you talk to, like to a child. I mean, a child, when it's 3 years old, you talk about airplanes to it or system thinking, will not understand it. Okay? So you need to accept that there is this scale, and then you live after it and you use it. And use the spiral to trick the people out.
Yeah, I guess I was going to ask whether this is individuals or can you take some of this for organizations?
Yes.
Do you have a dominant protocol for the organization?
Yes. The spiral level is for individuals and groups of people, whole countries, and organizations of all kinds. And we hear about, since 2015, we hear about reinventing organizations from Frédéric Laloux and teal organizations. That's it. Frédéric Laloux wrote his book, Reinventing Organizations, after reading Spiral Dynamics and Ken Wilber. And Ken Wilber has even wrote the what's it called? the preface to his book. Okay, so yeah. Story? I wouldn't know where to start because it's a million stories. I mean, this is just everywhere. Okay, everywhere you go, you will meet people who are in these levels or organizations who are in these levels. There's majority of people are in certain levels. A few people are in other levels. And examples. This is not something. This is not a methodology. So for a methodology, I could give you examples because I used it. This is just knowledge about how I call it the operational system of the human mind. If you understand the OS of the mind, you know how to handle it, and then you can put the applications on it, right? Yes? Oh, I can't hear you.
You just mentioned that we should speak the language that go from certain class.
Yes.
The language that they only understand. If so, how does people grow into the next level? You just keep speaking the same language.
No, you don't want to. You accept that people are in a certain level, and you leave them where they are. If they want to evolve, if they have the capability to evolve by themselves, fine. You do not want people to change the level. They are in the level they are. You just accept it. And they will eventually change, but you will not be able to make them change. It's like this: bring a horse to a well, yeah? Bring a horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. It's impossible. Understand it?
I'm wondering how long it takes to find out which level someone is. I don't know if you have any particular way how to find that out.
I have a little experience, and I know it after a few minutes, talking to the person. Sometimes it's seconds. I talked to this guy earlier about it. When you see someone who is covered with logos of a football club, okay, or car brands or whatever, a true believer in something, you know already that he will be on a certain worldview that does not allow him to even see people of another football club as partners. They are enemies. Red level. Okay? Football clubs, and you need blue people to keep them at a certain discipline. All right? So there's external signs that you can interpret immediately. Now someone can trick you, okay? But for example, you can hear. When you're able to even to listen to that, that means you're not in the lower levels. Because you would go outside, you would not even want to hear it. Yes?
Anything about contradict your preconception, your judgment.
No, it's not a judgment. When you are up this level, you do not judge anyone. That is one characteristic of being up the spiral. There is no judgment. You just analyze and you accept it. So you don't judge. And you're not even tolerant, because tolerance is judgment, and then you decide to become tolerant. Sorry?
Maybe we should have the two levels. Maybe that there are two levels in the spiral between the purple and the below, and the green is level 1, and the yellow and the blue is level 2. So when you're on level 1, you think that your color is the most important. You have no idea about the other colors. And when you're above on the yellow or the blue one, then you realize that You can change between the colors, you can play with the colors and with the behaviors, so to speak. So what you're explaining is you're obviously on the yellow level at least, because you're able to distinguish the others. Or when you're on the level below, then you see only your blue, your orange, your green, and that's fine. And everything else is not your kind of your cup of tea.
You do not consider it. Okay? You find it weird, strange, not your world, and you're perfectly comfortable in your world. That is what people do. Now, as I said, you cannot make change people from one level to the next. Why would you? Okay? It's like you see a snail and you want to make a horse out of it, you will not succeed. It's not possible. You cannot teach a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old child to drive a motorcycle. It's not possible. Okay? So you, with a 3-year-old child, you do the things that you do with a 3-year-old child. Sorry?
I wouldn't say that in that rigid form.
Okay.
I mean, you know that you are asking for examples like South Africa was developing from the red and blue to the orange world.
Yes.
The Soviet Union was before Gorbachev was in the blue range. They started to develop to the orange. And
Yes.
we are all making this move currently from the orange to the green world. So there is some evolution going on, but it takes a long time.
Yes.
Say, yeah?
Yeah, it is not us who bring the change. The change happens. It's evolution. So what I want to say, you're completely right. Organizations change slowly. America was already a little bit like the orange level, completely orange level. Now it dropped down to the red level. Okay, so you can see, and you also you need to see it from different angles. You cannot see someone is completely blue or whatever. So a person has different development lines. So you can be completely blue in one thing, like I live after the book in my job, and then when I get home, I do something completely different. And I am, a red guy, for example, at home. So this is a little bit more complex. I really invite you to read the book and to experience it. And it really it breaks out like the frame of what we wanted to discuss tonight. You know, there's so much to say about it, but I want to give you just an overview that you need to accept that people have different levels, and you need to accept that you cannot change them. They change eventually, but it's not because you want them to change. This is not how to introduce change. But you can use the current level of the person or of the organization, for example, orange, to introduce agile, which is a completely teal thing. Yeah? Wanted to say something?
I was just wondering, I think it's a leadership skill. We expect you to be in more in the above level, to be aware of different levels. And you have the team you're responsible for, you should be aware, you should be able to read your people in which level you assume they are.
Correct.
So you're talking about data, Scrum, and self-organization.
Yes.
So I'm wondering how you deal with that if you have a self-organized team. Do you raise the awareness in the team that all of them are aware or should be aware?
No, you don't need to. You don't need to. It's implied. You don't need to be. You don't need people to be aware of what they stand, where they stand in the spiral. It is enough that you understand it. It's a leadership thing. This is called the augmented leadership toolbox. Tool number 1.
That's why I'm saying it. I'm wondering who is you who you said you should be aware of.
If you want to change organizations, you want to bring change into organizations and eventually to people, you should know about that. I do. I cannot work without this.
Fair point. I was just wondering if you are part of a self-organized team.
I work on my own.
I'm not talking about you.
I'm a freelancer. Yeah.
Something for that, for like you, but just imagine you're a
Ah.
self-organized team,
Yes.
and you don't have the leader as you have in an
All right.
organization.
Your question. What's your name? You? Joy? Joyful. Okay. You asked about what is competence? What is a leader? I will explain this now. All right. I said I will explain it later. What is competence? This is part of the competence. If you know that about people, you are more competent than most of the people. You can become a leader. I'm not talking about manager. Manager has a title, has a role, is not specifically competent. People do not become a manager because they are competent. They are competent managers, but it doesn't go together. While a leader is always competent. Okay? What is competence? You know your stuff. You can communicate about it. You can exchange with others. You have the capability of aligning with others. And you can document what you do. You do what you say, and you say what you do. That is competence to me. And I would ask if you have other definitions of competence here in the room. What is competence for you? When do you become a competence leader? When is it you qualify for a competence leader? You know your stuff. You can communicate to the others. You have the capability of aligning with others. You can document your stuff, all right? And yeah, you have also some human qualities. You're a nice guy, for example. If you're grumpy all the time, people will not accept you as a leader for long because it's not good, all right? So you can be bizarre. That is not a problem, but you cannot be aggressive, for example. Someone aggressive or of the red level here will never become a competence leader. This is a power hierarchy here. Okay, those we have nothing as well. That is my view. Anyone has a better idea, or anyone can add something to that?
Just to piggyback on what you said, also keeping in mind that every conversation is a relationship. Every relationship is a conversation. So it's more coming down from the line.
Yes.
Feedback, for example. Exactly creating.
Yes. Yeah. Being able to take feedback, yeah, and align, that is a competence. It's part of someone competent. If you cannot be a leader if you can't listen to feedback, okay? Then you are in another level here. So many people can't take feedback. They get angry or they always look for someone else's fault or whatever. This is not a leadership behavior, okay? All right, so far for the spiral. I would like to go to the next one. Good. That goes with the spiral. People change always the same way. Okay? You have, when you are in front of a change, it always goes through different phases of stability. And you can recognize the stage of the change by how comfortable people are where they are. Because if you are in a stable state, for example, in one of these colors, you're completely at home. Change is a long time ahead of you. Because for change, you need to be uncomfortable. You will not want to change if you have no pressure. This is like a steam cooker, okay? You close the lid. If the lid is open of a steam cooker, the pressure will never get pressure. So it will never change, and your stuff will cook slowly. If you want to change it, you need to make a high pressure. The pressure comes. So you will see comfortable people and uncomfortable people. So what is it? Alpha state is comfortable. Then you go to a beta state, which translates to tension. Then from the beta state, you have two possibilities. Either you are smart and flexible in your minds, you go directly to the next alpha stage because you do not oppose resistance, or you go down to the gamma stage because you do not agree with the change. It's uncomfortable, but you are afraid of the change, or you don't want it. Then the change will happen all the same way, but because you cannot go against change. It's like you want to go against time or the laws of the universe. Change will happen, but you have two possibilities to go through the change: the easy way or the difficult way. That's it. And you meet someone, the way he talks to you, you can say, alpha stage this, he's in the beta stage, he's in the gamma stage, or he's in the delta stage. He understood that he needs to go out of this attitude. Then he will come to the new alpha stage, all right? From A to B, and how much entropy will there be depends on the person. That comes together with a spiral. Entropy being defined by the wasted energy. People can either accelerate the change, which will anyway happen, or they will oppose it and will put a lot of energy in opposing it, and it hurts more. That is what happens. It happens for everybody, and this is just the basic law of psychology, all right? Questions to that? Seems clear? Okay. How do I find my purpose? Ikigai. Japanese principle is taught in Japan at kindergarten. Kids learn it. And actually, everybody knows it in Japan. True or not? Ikigai. Everybody knows about, no? Yeah? You learn it where? Kindergarten, no? No. When do you learn it? Huh?
Through your life?
No, but when do you hear first about it? Yeah, as a child. No, children learn it, no?
I don't remember.
Okay, you don't remember, right? It's so long time ago that you don't remember. This is what my research has taught me, that in Japan it is taught very early. And what is it? To find a balance in life and your purpose, then you need to do what you love. And you need to think about what the world needs. And eventually get paid for it. And if you're not good at it, it's not the right way, okay? And all these intermediate states out of this complete balance, you can see them. For example, if you combine what you love and what you need, it's great. It's going to be your mission. But if you don't get paid for it, either you're rich or you have a rich family, but you can't live from it. If you don't do what you love, you will be unhappy. Even if the world needs it, it can be, you can see, it can be delight, and you can feel comfortable, you can feel satisfied. But it can be useless because the world doesn't need it. So this is all the deviations of the balance you need to find for yourself. And I tell you, I'm doing it myself all the time. I always correct my own path of life with these 4 parameters. Do I get money for it? Am I good at it? Does the world need it? Do I really love what I do? Okay? 4 things you need to understand. When you know that, you can develop a dream. You can develop your goal in life. And there's 1,000 books about how to make a successful life, or what. I will not go there. But that is the basic bricks of a balanced life. There's no basic bricks below it. This is the foundation of it. You cannot go lower than that. All right? So what you love, what you need, what you pay for, and what you're good at. That is what you need to do. Then you know your purpose. You find your balance. Now, where it becomes questions? No. This is something I found out by myself. This is my augmented leadership Venn diagram. You see the purpose is on top. Yeah? The purpose, you have defined it. If you haven't defined your purpose, you can't take the right decision. So this is a strategy defining tool, and you can use it every time you take a decision in your life. Even as a person, I use it. Okay, I know my purpose, I know my goal, I know what I want to do. That's what you saw in the slide before. Okay, now I have a decision to take. So I check out 4 values. Does it go into my purpose? Does it agree with my values? Obviously, you need to define them. If you don't define the values, don't bother talk about it. Are you clearly seeing your constraints? What is a constraint? A constraint is, do you have enough time? Do you have enough money? Do you have the knowledge? Do you have the resources? Is there legislation? Whatever it is, that is a constraint. It comes out of the project management world, sorry. Maybe I should call it reality, okay? It's the reality check. Is it really possible what I want to do? And then, fourth, entropy. Monitor your entropy. Because if you start seeing that you lose a lot of energy in doing something, you do it wrong. Because if you do the right thing, the amount of energy you put in it should be defined. Okay? So like you take your car to go from one city to the next, and it's 100 kilometers apart, and your car is using 100 kilometers of gas, check it out. Something is wrong. Okay? Should be like 7 or 8 liters or so. Or if you have an electric car, yeah. But the energy you use to go from A to B, you need to define it. You know in advance how much energy it would cost. And it doesn't mean that you cannot do complicated things that will cost a lot of energy. You need to monitor the wasted energy. The wasted energy comes out of complexity, comes out of not seeing the constraints, comes out of not respecting your values, comes out of going against your purpose, and something is wrong if you waste too much energy. So you need to redefine, you need to turn the steering wheel to the right direction, all right? So entropy is a very important meta KPI. It is all the energy in an organization that is wasted. For example, by bureaucracy. If you work in an organization where it takes 5 signatures from 5 levels of management to buy, I don't know, some post-its, something is wrong, because post-it will be very expensive if you require 5 people to sign for it. But I can see that in the organizations I work. I see absurd things that cost a lot of energy. And this energy is lost forever, because the universe is always going to more complex, the laws of thermodynamics, okay? Energy is always going to more complex, and it's losing energy. It's not losing it because it's dissipated, it's the correct physical expression for it, but you can't use it anymore. You have 10 euro in your pocket, you spend them, you don't have them a second time. You spend 1 hour on something, you cannot spend this hour on something else. It's gone. That is the entropy, okay? So that is a very important concept for you, which I would like to give you. Check out the entropy. You can also call it debt. When we do software development, we talk about technical debt. What is technical debt? You do something wrong in the development, yeah, well, you build up a debt because you will need to repair it. And you generate entropy. Entropy is a debt. It's the same thing. Organizations build up debts because they treat their people badly, the organization is bad, there's too much bureaucracy, management is shit, or whatever, okay? So this debt is entropy, and this is what we need to avoid. This is why I like agile, because when you work really agile and evolutionary, you limit your entropy to a maximum. Yeah, you use the right amount of energy to go from A to B, and you don't waste energy. By the way, this Venn diagram comes out of artificial intelligence. I tell you a story. One of my best friends in Berlin is a AI researcher. He's a fundamental researcher. I call him the Asimov of artificial intelligence. He's incredible. He researched the basic laws of what AI should be. I'm not talking about this, what is sold to you as AI, which is just data mining. I'm talking about intelligence, not data mining, okay? Not making new decisions out of old data. That is not intelligence. That is encyclopedia, okay? So intelligence is I make new decisions in new environments with new data. It's not crappy data that I go through very fast in order to take my next decision. That is not intelligence. So my friend Eric, he said to me, my machine, I need to tell her what to do. And my machine needs to know what's the goal. Okay? And it needs to know what the values are that it can use to go in the right direction. And it needs to know the constraints. Then I check the energy level. If the energy level is up, I know something is wrong. So I take the example of a car, GPS, car with the GPS. I go from A to B. When you program the GPS, you tell them, okay, I'm here, I want to go there. I want to avoid motorways. I want to avoid ferries. This is all parameters in your GPS. You may not use them, but they are there. You want to go fast. You want to go quick. You want to go less distance. For example, when you use Google Maps, you choose pedestrian, cycle, public transport, car. Okay, and then a few others. And Google Maps calculates, you can see that, calculates another route for you because the constraints are different. As a pedestrian, you can walk a one-way road. As a car, you shouldn't. Okay? So that is how intelligence works. And if you bring down your decisions to these four parameters, you will take only good decisions. Because it is in alignment with your purpose, with your goals. It is in alignment with your values. It is in alignment with your constraints. You will never start something that is just impossible to achieve. And you check out the entropy all the time because you need to see decisions on a timeline. You don't take a decision like one shot and then it's done. The decision has an impact on a timeline. So on this timeline, you need to check all the time these four parameters. And that is deeply agile. That is exactly what agile is. When you have a sprint review, you check it out. You have the target of your sprint. And you make a plan for your sprint. I plan whatever, story points or something I want to achieve. And at the end, it doesn't work or it works. Then you do your review and you see, it didn't work because there was some constraint I didn't capture correctly. For example, I didn't capture that someone was calling me for whatever, tickets to solve or a quality problem to solve, yeah? Some typical things why people do not achieve the sprint target. That is constraints they have not foreseen. Because when you do your sprint target correctly, you will take in account that there's a possibility that someone calls you for something else, all right? You have not followed the four rules. So when you define your sprint target, or you buy a tomato, I can do the example with you for buying a tomato, okay? Why do I buy a tomato? What do I want to do with it? Tomato sauce, salad, what can you do? Ketchup? I don't know. Why do you buy a tomato, okay? That you need to know the purpose of the tomato first. Otherwise, you can't buy the right tomato. Okay, because rental rate is different. Then you need to know your values. What is the value of buying a tomato? Yeah, but there is plenty. Is it organic? Is it cheap? Is it expensive? Is it nice in color or whatever? What are your values for a tomato? Okay, I'm using this absurd example to show you that you can just use this rule for everything, even buying tomatoes. What's the constraints? I mean, the constraints is there enough tomatoes for, I want to buy 5 kilos, do I have enough? Do I have enough money? What's the price of it? These are constraints. Are they from, for example, you decided that you wanted organic and you don't have organic. I mean, are you accepting that you eat some poison tomatoes? So that is all the stuff. And the entropy, for example, your own entropy. Do you have to ride 50 kilometers to buy a kilo of tomatoes? That is a lot of energy spent for a kilo of tomatoes. So you need to find out if it's just a shop beside on your street. Maybe you will not find the exact tomatoes you want, but your energy level is right. You buy a tomato that comes from Peru. The entropy level of a tomato from Peru is quite high. So something here you need to understand that entropy and sustainability, they go together. Okay? When the entropy is high, when the heat goes up, sustainability goes down. When the entropy is too low, meaning that you don't spend enough energy, you need to waste some energy or spend some energy. Your gas, when you burn it from going to city A to city B, you burn the gas is dissipated in the universe, you make some CO2. Well, you need it, okay? You cannot do without if you have a car, unless you buy another car or you take the train. Okay? So that's the entropy reflection. Entropy and sustainability, opposite. What happens if there's not enough energy? Not enough energy means what? Well, you don't move. Zero entropy is a frozen diamond, minus 272 degrees. It doesn't move a lot, but it's completely useless. Okay, so it's nice to watch, maybe, but you don't need to freeze it for that. But the atoms in this diamond don't move at all, so there's no entropy. Okay, that is useless. Something when the sun is a lot of entropy, but it's consuming itself. It's giving us heat, and it's consuming itself, and one day it's gone. Sustainability. All right? That is something you need to understand. So next time you buy tomatoes, watch the diagram. Now it's actually for big decisions, for small decisions. When you know your purpose, you know your values, you know your constraints, and you monitor, you check your entropy, you are good. Yes. You need to talk loud, yeah?
Okay, I have 2 questions. What exactly is problematic leadership, and why the second level and the third level of the overlapping areas are very relatively connected?
Yes.
What did they mean, and why is it important?
Yeah. Like in the previous here, you have positive and negative values mixed. Okay. For example, comfortable but feeling of emptiness. Okay. You have excitement and complacency, but sense of uncertainty. These are 2 levels. It's a balance. In my Venn diagram, if you do not respect if one of these 4 principles is not correctly evaluated or is not followed, you will get into confusion when you go ahead with your decision. You will get into anxiety. You will have frustration as a result. You will have a resistance. You will fail. Your people will disengage. You will have delays at best and issues because you do not respect the 4 levels in an equal manner. Now, sorry for that. You can discuss what really happens if I do not respect, for example, only the values. You can change them around, okay? It's not as precise as I would like it to be. What I want to show here is you have 4 principles, and you need to respect them, because every time you respect only 3 of them, you will have problems. And you program the problems from the beginning. This is what organizations do all the time. How many times have I seen managers saying, I want to do this. I know it's going to be difficult. All right, so let's put the money in it. And at the end, millions spent. I was on a program, IKEA. We spent 900 million euro for nothing. Just nothing, no result. Yeah? This is what happens outside here. So I wanted to show you that when you take a decision, you need to respect these 4. If you do not respect one of them, you get into trouble. That's the meaning. What was your second question? You said you had 2. Augmented leadership, what is it? It's my toolbox. Okay, where does augmented come from? You know about augmented reality, yes? Goggles. What is augmented reality? Have you ever has somebody ever experienced augmented reality with goggles? I guess some of you have, yeah? So what do you see? You see through the goggles, and you see what you see normally. But then projections come on your glass, coming out of data, because there's a camera and it's recognized objects or whatever, people. And it gives you additional information on what you already see. That is exactly what I teach people. I tell people, if you want to augment your reality, if you want to augment your leadership, you need to have the right tools. You need to use data. You need to use tools like this, because this will augment your leadership skills and your reality, the reality you will create. This is why I call it augmented leadership. Otherwise, it's a marketing term. Yeah, I need people to talk to me, you know. So what do? I provoke a bit, all right? So I throw out like buzzwords. Nobody knows what it is, but people ask the question, so I can talk. Yeah, that's another goal.
I am probably too much realistic, but my reality is I'm looking the moment for the job, and I can find everything I find is only 3 points of these circles. As an example, it is well paid, it's something I'm good at,
yes,
but it's not that I love to do.
Yes.
Is it only my reality like
No.
that, or do I do something wrong?
Sorry. Yeah. I'm doing that game a little bit longer than you, and I have bad news for you.
No.
No, it's not true. It's not true. It's getting better. No, it's not true. I find that nowadays, since a few years now, we start talking about purpose and values. Yeah, values even a bit earlier. HR guys know that values, like over the last 10 years, 15 years, they're at least written on the website. Okay, nobody lives them. At IKEA, values are written on every wall, and it's they actually live it. I saw at IKEA that you have a meeting with high managers, talk about something, take decisions, and at the end someone says up, but we need to check it against our values. Is this what the values of the company are? They really do it. It's fantastic. The purpose is kind of new. The evolutionary purpose, that comes out of Frederic Laloux's book from 2015 or 2014. That is new, but it's there now, and people start thinking about it. Why do we gather tonight? Because we think about how to make the world a better place, And knowing about purpose and values and all that stuff helps us to bring this message out into the world. So yes, people will become better because you want it to become better, and you will choose the best compromise, and the compromise you will choose will become better and better with the time. And if you work as a freelancer like me, I choose my jobs. Not always. But most of the time I choose my jobs. And I choose them not because I define my values, all right? I'm doing sometimes jobs and I don't get the money for it. It's too difficult, but I want to do it because I can learn something out of it. I said that earlier. Where I learned the most in my life was with the worst teachers and the worst organizations, because you learn from negative experience. You know how not to do things. I have been working over the decades, sorry, I'm old. I have been working in shitty organizations, in the worst. But I learned something. And the result is I come up with that thing now. All right, and I teach you guys, you're much younger. I teach you something that comes out of my experience, out of this shitty stuff. So it's worth it, yes, and it will get better. Even if people tell you the contrary, it's not true. You said it will not become better, but it's not true. We can do much more today. For example, agility. Agility is a buzzword. The orange people like it because they heard that it's good. They don't know what it is. This is what we said earlier. And it's okay, because we need them to pay our bills. Okay? If the orange people don't pay us, who will? Okay? They are the people who have the money. And we need to live. That's it. Use it as the Trojan horse. This is what I told Holger earlier. Put agile in your thing. People will love it. And there's plenty of jobs. Because everybody wants to become agile. Without knowing what it is. But it's an open door. Okay? So take it. Go inside. And you can do a lot. I have a lot of fun in my job. If you can work in a place, you have to make a compromise in life. Okay? I don't know a life where everything is perfect. Sorry. Maybe I'm born on the wrong planet. You will always have to make a compromise, but you choose the compromises you do. So for example, if you get less money, but the others are good, do it, if you can. Now, if you starve and you don't pay your bills, and you get thrown out of your apartment because you don't pay the rent, maybe you should change, because then the entropy principle kicks in, okay? If what you do generates too much entropy, negative things happening in your life, you need to change, okay? But you will not find an ideal world. You don't create an ideal world with a Venn diagram, but it helps you to understand the world and to make better choices, all right? Because it takes the illusion out of you. You see the reality with this when you take the data, and that is what helps you. Yeah, helps you in your personal development. But yeah, nobody will tell you that. You always have to make compromises. Or has somebody a better idea? No. Yeah.
I think it's not a better idea, but it's what I've noticed in my life is that I think one of the things in having a job, there's other areas in your life where you maybe can make up for it.
Compensate,
So if you, for example, don't find what the world needs in your job, you could do some what in English?
Some pro bono work or yeah. So you work for free.
If you know about these tools and you know there's something is missing, one area of my life, you have other areas of your life to make it.
Correct. That's your own decision, but still, it's there. Okay. So you will not find at any stage of your life all these four working perfectly in harmony, and you will during stages of your life feel these uselessness or uncertainty or you run out of money or you feel empty or what. Okay, but if you know it, why? Okay, the most of the people suffer, they don't know why. Here you suffer, you know why. It's true, it helps. All right, so now it's we're over time, and we have a little time left for other questions or have a beer together or some drinks. But I'm finished with my presentation. Thank you very much. I was waiting for 20 minutes standing ovation, but okay. Thank you so much. Yes?
What inspired you to get into this?
What me inspired?
Well, first, take you back to the organizational stuff, front end, and understand what this other element of your.
Okay, to what exactly now? Because I mean, we are talking about a lot of things now.
What motivates you
To be here tonight, for
here?
example?
Yeah.
To be here tonight or to do the job I do?
Yeah.
To change organizations, to change people, or to try at least? What is my purpose? My purpose, maybe you missed it in the beginning. Yes, but I told you that I'm practicing Zen Buddhism since 35 years or something. Okay, incredibly long time. So my view on the world is obviously I have another reality than most of people because I have been through stages of personal development, and my role in this world, I understand it that I need to accelerate things. I'm here. I feel like an accelerator, and when I observe what I'm doing, I bring people with relatively little effort. I make them. I have them make big leaps because I'm going straight to the thing that they did not understand before, and which was an impediment, and they couldn't find it by themselves. So I have a big pleasure to know that the people who cross my path get their development accelerated. So I understand myself. This comes really out of the Buddhism. I understand myself like a fountain. So I disperse stuff. You come to drink or not, I don't care. So you go home now and you have listened to what I said. Well, all right. It's your problem, not mine. I'm just here and I give my time and my effort to bring people faster to where any way they go. That is my principle. That is why I'm doing the coaching, and that is why I'm doing evenings like this. And yeah. The people who know me, a few people here know me, you know it's a reality.
Why'd you get into Zen?
Okay, that's a personal story, but I can tell it. I had a no religious education from an anti-clerical family. And so I had nothing to lose. I had nothing to take off, right? I was free. But at a certain age, I think I was 27 or 28, I understood that something was missing in my life. I felt the emptiness, and nothing could help it. And then I was trying a few things, and I met Zen master, Shimano Roshi, and I followed this guy, and he taught me meditation. And Zen meditation is very tough. It is not a beginner thing, okay? Beginner thing is there's many. Zen meditation is really tough. And you saw me with the stick earlier. It's a Photoshop, but it's true. They really hit you, okay? And it is the Zen meditation is tough. It's painful. It's tough, but it gets you far, right? It's like a motorway. Yeah, you can drive fast to whatever you go with. That is why I got into Zen meditation. This is why I'm still doing it, and this is why I sometimes teach it, but not so much. Because anyway, I prefer to live it through my work. Yeah, everything I was telling you tonight comes out of that philosophy. Because Zen is a philosophy. It's not a religion. Okay, people confuse it. All right, it is a mental preparation. Zen gets you disconnected from the illusion. That's the power of Zen. You observe yourself. That's the power of Zen. Get disconnected from what you think you are. Okay? People think they are the emotions, they are the thoughts, they are the things they're doing. They define themselves by actions, or worse, by what they have. When you do the Zen, the Zen practice, you don't define yourself by what you have, by what you do, or by what you think, or by what you feel. You go much deeper than that inside yourself. You define yourself, you find your true self. That is Zen meditation. And once you found that, gosh, you're a free man. Okay? That is the thing. You gain so much freedom. Because you don't have the illusion anymore. You can see the reality as is. And you don't want to change it anymore. Because the ego is gone. I still have a big ego, but I can switch it off when I want. Huh?
Thanks for sharing.
The kind of combination of Ikigai and related leadership. I was thinking about communities for individuals, Ikigai for individuals, I guess it's organizations, too slow, trying to do it like a buzz organization, but handling some business stuff. And the thing which I was thinking about is about agility. And you know,
It's what?
it's just about agility,
Yes.
and the ability to be agility. Yes. I don't like these things about whiteboards. This comment stuff, that's good reason. But I was thinking about like all the truly sort of agile organizations out there. They're not behaving externally different from the way that they are inside. You know, so actually the agility that they have becomes part of their sort of selling point to well. So like there's not this sort of difference in projected values versus the sort of internal values. Okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that I was just thinking about that in relation to engineering. You know, about how some of these large organizations who don't really behave the way they meant themselves, they have a lot of actual stressful work for them. We do work for really agile. You know, we work for agencies where you have a really tight team. You kind of run. So yeah, no, I was thinking there's something interesting there about.
It is. Disconnect we're talking about between appearance and reality is creating an immense difference. Okay? You have to compensate over time. You have to work really hard, and then people get crushed. Because there's no alignment possible when you are living in a lie. Okay? That's for sure. Then you should, it's a lie. And yeah, I see it every day. But sometimes you have to I can say you have to transcend the lie, because I mean the reality that most people see is a lie already. Okay, so now we're going to philosophy, we're going again to Zen, but in the Zen practice, we understand reality in a different way. So we do not understand the reality by a subjective, emotional thinking way, but like people concepts. Okay? We reject the concepts. And when you reject the concepts, when you go behind the concept, you transcend the concept, then it can generate a big suffering to work in a completely disconnected organization. That is what people feel, and it's satisfying. That is makes them unhappy and makes them demotivated. But this is why when you introduce agile, at least it's a step. Okay? And this is why I always call agile the Trojan horse. Because you bring it agile, it's a Trojan horse. You can bring a lot of stuff. It brings people to a completely different level, and at the end it changes the whole thing slowly. That is what I observed. But if you bring a higher consciousness to an organization, obviously you will change it. But you cannot say how fast it will change. It will change. It's evolution. You cannot say, evolution, you have the Darwin, okay? Darwin is evolution. You have epigenetics. You have the means and you have the genes, okay? What I showed you, the spiral, this is means. This is epigenetics. Okay? So there's a science behind all that stuff. But people cannot always live in a connected world. The world is getting connected. It's on the way.
Yeah, I see this I feel very much looking at this kind of individual frameworks and doing today apply to, I think that's kind of what touches being about values, especially in an organizational sense, and in the sense of like agility, how you rely on project values. So if you think about an organization like a state brand or something like that, you know that when you're working with a brand already, they're like states, so you can just tell everyone. I guess it's the same with like, work like, we were talking earlier about we were a developer organization, and the developers can smell that they're actually really a struggle. So it's one of these things not respect, but I'm just kind of wondering if we do proper agility, we don't have.
But we're going currently in the right direction. I can see it. I can see that this incredible communication facility we have now. We can communicate concepts, ideas all over the world very quickly. We work together. We have an enormous potential now to also grow in the right direction in our the evolution of our mind. You can see that the next generation, I have kids, I can see they grow up in a completely different world, and they are already completely different. I have kids with a quite huge age difference. So my eldest, they are 30, and then I have one like 14, and now I know how different they are already. Okay, so I can see humanity is on its way. Yeah. Digital natives have another world. They live already in an open world. I mean, it's open. I mean, it's everywhere, but it's much. I mean, my parents, they grew up under Nazi regime. Okay? My grandparents had made 2 world wars. Right? So if you see the path, like in 100 years, it's enormous. It's very fast, extremely fast. We lose the feeling how fast our development is because we don't look past and we are impatient. But in reality, things are going very, very fast in the right direction. And, if we don't get held up by phenomena like Brexit or Trump, which is just stupidity, stupidity is like limited, all right? But it's temporary, okay? So you need to see through what's coming. Okay? You don't stop at phenomena. So if you hear if you go into organizations and you introduce change, someone will always complain, all right? It's not important. It doesn't change your happen anyway. And it's happening. Well, the world is getting open and it's getting connected.
I have a question. We talked today a lot about agile, and because I started to search out this topic, and I discovered that actually at the moment I work more or less in this system, and I wanted to change the job and to work much more deeper in this area. I found it out that normally the other companies, they want that I have some kind of certificates. And honestly to say, everything I found, it is about 3 days and costs about 2,000 euros. My logic of I cannot understand it. How much can I get in 3 days of the information? It's not even the question of the money, but really 3 days, and then after that I'm a cool agile culture. So my question is, probably you could advise a way out of it, or is it really like that? Is it really necessary? And I understood it wrong, or is there any other tool for that?
To become a coach, to become agile, or both, or
both.
Okay, but agile you can learn it in 1 hour. Principle of it. I'm exaggerating. 20 minutes. Okay, it's really not difficult. Now, applying it with people, that takes a bit more. Because you need to go through some sort of shit before you learn how to manage the shit and to make it better. I don't think there's a shortcut. This is a question of human maturity, people's maturity.
And I do it already since 1 year. So,
yeah,
but
continue.
But I have to get this, this official approval certificate that I'm really there.
Yeah, this is how it works. Because you're young, you don't have the experience. I don't have any certificate in my life. All right, I don't need it because I have the experience. I compensated otherwise. When you're young, you need certificates. You need diplomas and stuff. Okay, I didn't need it, and I don't have it. That's me. I did a lot of things. I showed you. I used to be a farmer. I learned when I was farming. I had horses. I had sheep, and I learned a lot about animals, how they behave. And I always I always looked at the relationship of our like biologic behavior and what makes us human and so on. Okay, this is questions I could see with working with animals. So anything you do will teach you something. So continue doing it.
My question were much more about how to make it official, that thing that I've learned. Because since a year, I am like an experimentator. I'm looking at my people who do my work and I try to experiment with them, if it works or not. After a year, I discovered that it's some kind of agility in this process. And I mix it up, agility with the lean and with everything I know, just because I know and it's interesting if it will work. And now when I want to change my job and to work exactly in the agility, they ask me about the certificate. And I'm just
but you can make it in a weekend, no?
€1,000.
It's the money. Well, ask them to pay for it. Go in a company where they pay you for the training. Okay, there are companies who do that. Yeah, if they want you to have the certificate, you pay for it. Yeah. Are you? I don't know. So I'll make a loan. I can't help you with that. I can't give it. I would give it to you. It's just a piece of paper.
Exactly. And as I'm from the printing industry, I don't really know how to tell it, but they say it's not legal.
Find a cheaper one. Read online. All right, guys. I think we need to close down.
That's a good idea.
We need to shut this beamer down and clear the place because I know that they close the door and we need to at least 5 minutes drink a beer. Can you switch it off?
Yeah. Nobody left.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have 2 minutes.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff?
Right.